Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this first little foray into the YouTubes. If anybody doesn't know me, I'm Ben Kiriakou. I'm a VG commentator and player. And we're going to be going through something pretty exciting today. This is the VGC Casters Cup, or the VGCCC, as it seems to be starting to be well known. And we're going to be going through a little bit of a look at my draft pick and going over some of the things that I've picked up along the way, what I'll be using across the tournament. Really excited to be involved in it. It's been done by Kosta and Barbourus, as he goes by online, and they have done a brilliant job in putting this together, finding all of the Pokemon, getting us together. We've got both video game casters, as you'd expect, but also a few TCG and Go casters as well that are joining us on the ever so loving dark side, as we like to call it, to be playing this competition. And we've got a few things, so let's kick things off straight away by going over to just a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the picks that I've picked for this tournament. So, very smoothly over to the rules of the competition. So if you haven't seen what a draft tournament is before, this is really a way of making a little bit more of a fun competitive format where the rules are slightly different. So rather than what you do in regular competition, we will still be playing in regulation set H, which is pretty similar to the current rule set in the video game at the moment. But we will be playing closed team sheets with open terra types. So we will be publishing our terra types to each other, but the rest of the information on a team, other than the Pokemon that are involved, will be hidden from each other. And of course, that's still double battles as well. And each week we're going to be picking from our team of 12 to decide on what we're going to be using, what's going to be best against our opponent. So everybody is going to be picking 12 Pokemon. And the really key thing in draft is once a Pokemon is gone, once it's been picked up by any of our players, then it's gone and nobody else can pick it up. So you get so much more variation, so many more unique picks, and that brings a lot of differences in the way that you team build week by week and what you bring. And also you have to stretch a lot what the sets of each of these Pokemon can do, because, well, you haven't got access to all of the best Pokemon. In fact, you've only got access to some Pokemon in the 12 that you've picked, and those Pokemon are of varying power levels as well. So we draft this in a snake draft, so we have an order of our players, and it goes down the list. Kosta is, of course, first up on the list, and Jamie Boy is probably the strongest place in the draft at number 16. So we're ordered 1 to 16. We each pick a Pokemon in order, 1 to 16, and then 16 all the way back up to 1. And we have to pick a combination of Pokemon from various tiers, and the Pokemon are split into different tiers ranked from S down to E. And for 8 of those, they're fixed. So you have, shown below, 1 S pick, 1 A pick, 2 Bs, 2 Cs, 1 D and 1 E. And then the remaining 4 Pokemon are from the 130 budget that you have. And each of the tiers cost different amounts. So 60 for an S tier pick and down to 10 for an E tier pick. Now, with only 130 budget, that's there to stop you from being able to pick 2 S tiers as your free picks out of your budget. Because if you spend 120 out of 130, you absolutely have to have 12 Pokemon. You cannot have 11. And so it's designed to make sure that if you pick some really top heavy stuff, that you have to pick maybe some bottom heavy stuff as well, things that aren't really quite as good. Now, our 16 players are going to be in 2 divisions of 8 players each, and we're going to play a 7-week round robin in each division, which will then combine into an overarching playoff where the top players will go head to head in a knockout bracket, and then at some point, well, I'd like to say I would win, but we'll see how it goes along the weeks. But someone will be the winner, and each week, if you really want to change up the team that you've picked, you can change. So if I in week 1 decided I wanted to change whatever Pokemon it is, that Pokemon would be on my team in week 2. So it's not an instant trade, but people can trade. And it's really important actually as the draft goes on, because it's really difficult to get exactly the team that you like when everybody is also picking all of the good Pokemon. So that's a really big deal, especially if you see somebody that's traded away something that you think, I had my eye on that, and you want to pick that up a little bit later on. Maybe you had to go in a slightly different direction to what you expected. So that's general state of play, and I'm hoping to talk a little bit more in detail each week about the matches that I play and the preparation that goes into that. So really looking forward to seeing how that goes across our schedule. So this is who I will be playing at week by week across. So week 1 that I'll be playing actually just after I record this is against Marcus of the Oslo Gladiators. Now, I'll leave handles and etc. in the description below if you want to check any of these guys out, and also have a look at maybe what they're deciding to do in terms of their prep and what they've picked on their draft. But Marcus is one of our Go commentators. Really good guy. Really looking forward to playing up against him. He's got a pretty scary team, so looking forward to seeing how that goes. Week 2, in at the deep end against Boyd, who is, as he self-proclaims, one of the best draft players out there. And to be honest, don't tell him this, I tend to agree he's pretty good. But looking forward to hopefully taking him down a peg. And then 5 move Volcaronas, that's Jake Muller, US VG Caster, Sierra of the Toronto Maple Muse. She will be my week 4 opponent, also a video game caster from the States. And Wancho of the Filipino Fenneckins as well. I'm really looking forward to playing up against him. He's one of our TCG casters over in the States as well. So a really nice mix of VG, TCG and Go, actually. I don't know how many other people... I think everyone obviously are in our flight, but I'm not sure we get the full list in the other side of the bracket. Then against Lou of the GMAX Gastrodons, of course. And I will be repping the pink Gastrodon all the way through that, Lou, so sorry in advance. And finally, week 7 up against Charlie Merriman, my wonderful VG co-caster. We casted together at the World Championships this year. And yeah, that's going to be a really fun one. They've all got really interesting teams. And I think the important thing for draft certainly is that, well, we don't have access to all of the good Pokemon. So you've got to really make the best out of everything that you've got. And no matter how strong your draft is, somebody can always find that little bit of a weakness in there. So yeah, this is going to be great week after week. Really looking forward to that. So let us get into my draft picks, and I'm just going to kind of really waffle at you all as I go through this, and this will be in the order that I picked all of these different Pokemon, and I'll just go through a little bit of my thought process along the way. So I was number 6 or 7 in the draft, somewhere in that order, so I didn't get by any stretch of the imagination's first picks like Kosta did, but I did get at least an early starting pick before a little bit of a longer wait coming back up the draft, and then a shorter pick as well. So I was kind of thinking, well, I've got to get some of my important things before there's a lot of people that are going to be picking Pokemon after me. And then when it comes back up the other side of the snake draft, then I've got a little bit of a shorter window. I can pick up maybe combos at that point in the draft. But looking for all the S-tier Pokemon, I was, especially in Regulation Set H, it hadn't gone by the time it came to me, and I was really excited to have just the overall one of the most strong Pokemon in Regulation Set H, and Ursaluna Blood Moon being that Pokemon. It's a nice flexible pick in as much that it can calm mind, it can boost, it can heal itself up with Moonlight. It's got a lot of power. Mind's Eye is a really interesting ability, so it's a nice thing of consistency when you think about accuracy, but also the fact that you can hit Ghost type means that I can bypass a lot of Terra types that where people are saying like, well, if I've got a Fake Outer a little bit later in my draft, they can Terra Ghost to get around that, but I can still hit them with the normal type coverage that the Ursaluna gives me. You can play it offensively with items like Life Orb or even Choice Specs. You can play it fast in Tailwind, you can play it slow in Trick Room. A lot of the really good sets that have come out of Regulation Set H are Assault Vest, and that thing is just so difficult to take down. And ground typing is something that Regulation H has not got lots of. There's Pokemon like Garchomp and the other form of Ursaluna, which I can't remember if it was still available when I picked it, but I think Blood Moon not having to set up, being a special attacker, that's a little bit harder to get power control. And I think overall its combination of that and its bulk makes it a really stable Pokemon to build around, and that's kind of what I wanted to start with, is like getting ground typing and getting good neutral coverage. And look at its special attack. I mean, you don't find many Pokemon with that much offensive presence in Regulation Set H, when all of the really powerful Pokemon haven't actually been picked up as yet. So Ursaluna Blood Boom, it's my first S tier pick, and that means that if I pick another S tier, spoilers, I might pick another S tier, it will be pretty telling to the direction that my draft takes. So this is where I started, and this is going down the draft order, so I've got a little bit of a longer wait at this point. I wanted to get my S tier picked up nice and early and start sort of building a little bit around it. So on the way back up, I had the pleasure of still having Sinistcha available for me. And this was my A pick. So it has a couple of good abilities here. Heat Proof gives it a lot of longevity against Pokemon like that can hit it really hard. Arcanines and Torkoals and Talonflames and other fire types like this. Heat Proof is pretty useful, but Hospitality and the ability to go into Trick Room is a really nice combination to have at your disposal. And I thought it was the perfect pick for starting to set up a Trick Room environment for Ursaluna. Not only can it get the Trick Room up and it can Rage Powder away water type attacks and other things that Ursaluna doesn't like, but it's pretty powerful as well. And as an attacker, you've got Rage Powder, you've got Life Dew to start healing things up. So even if you've got it on the field and you can't use the Hospitality boost, you can still use Life Dew, you can still use your own moves. And that's not to mention the ability, there was a few early Regulation Set H where Sinistcha was setting up with moves like Calm Mind and Nasty Plot. It's got fairly good coverage with Shadow Ball as well, and if you're just looking at the same type attack bonus moves, and I think it's got a lot going for it. And just at this point in the draft, I'm just thinking like, hey, this is great, because I've got a mode set up now that kind of runs on its own with the ability to Terra. You can Protect and Terra and Trick Room, and there's not many Pokemon aside from anything that learns Taunt, etc. But you can put a Mental Herb on it to deal with that can stop me going for just Trick Room and hitting things hard if I really want to, if I see that vulnerability in my opponent's team. And Hospitality, just having 25% more of a partner Pokemon can make the difference, where if a move just does a little bit more than half, I can switch a Sinistcha in and heal it up. And it doesn't matter like what the context is, just getting 25% recovery, just getting a Citrus Berry is always something that's really, really nice to have. So Redirection, Trick Room, lots of tools there. Offensive, boosting, Um, it's also actually I wasn't really too conscious of this at the time, but base 70 speed can go fast as well. We can do fast Sinister. That might be something I bring in. Who knows? We'll see. So really happy with this pick. And it really does start to set up a little bit of a core that I want to build around. Now, at this point, we've already gone up and down the draft, and certainly after the first round of picks on its way to Boyd, everyone was saying, "Oh no, don't let Jamie get Dondozo and Tatsugiri, because if you're on the end of the snake draft, you get 2 picks in a row, and then you just have to wait for ages for everybody else to pick their Pokemon before it comes back to you. But you can pick up combos much more easily." Now, Jamie, I think he drafted Gengar and Quaquaval or Metagross. I can't remember. It's on his draft video if you want to have a look at that, on his first set of picks. But he didn't take Dondozo Tatsugiri, and neither did Kosta on the way back up the snake draft after I'd picked up Sinistcha. And I was thinking, well, actually a water type would be a really nice way to round things out, and also I can meme a little bit. I can have a little bit of fun with this. So I picked up Dondozo. Now at this point, everybody that was above me as we're going down the draft, mostly Kosta, was saying, "Oh no, we can't let anybody let Ben get Tatsugiri." But I think I was quite clever here, because Dondozo on its own, it's a pretty bulky Pokemon. It's got a really high HP stat. It's pretty slow, and I've already set up this really nice Trick Room potential for my team. So I'm thinking, well, if I just get Dondozo and don't get Tatsugiri, I'm happy. Like, Dondozo's a pretty good Pokemon. Unaware's a really nice ability, because one of the traits of draft leagues is that people like to set up quite a lot, because there's lots of vulnerabilities in people's teams, and if you set up in certain ways, you can really exploit those vulnerabilities and overpower your opponent where they don't have all of the best Pokemon in the right places. And so Unaware, I think, is a really underrated ability in general, but also like specifically in draft. I think it's really, really strong. And then you've got this FIC, a team that really likes to intimidate lots. I think David had a couple of intimidators, there's others I'm sure. Oblivious is able to block taunts, so I can go for like yawn strategies and things like that, because Dondozo can go for quite some nice supportive options. It's got Curse to boost. Do you know what? I'm not above using Fisher. I'm not above it. I will, if I see Dondozo in a particularly strong scenario that I think my opponent really can't break it very easily, I will absolutely Fisher. 1 week, we'll have to see. I might do that against Lou, because it would be so much fun to Fisher a Gastrodon. I can't tell you how much joy that would bring me. But back on topic, if I see an opponent's team that really likes to, or where their Dondozo answer is to burn you, then I've got Water Veil as well, and it brings doubt into the team building process for the draft. So it's going all the way down. I'm really happy that I've got Dondozo, because it's cementing this thing. And I was like, if I don't get Tatsugiri, I can just develop a team where Dondozo is good. And I'm really happy to have it. And then I get Tatsugiri. Nobody picks it. And I was so happy. Now, it's really important to note, like, so there's part of my strategy here for picking Dondozo was that it was early enough in the draft where I thought Tatsugiri's not a commonly strong Pokemon in Regulation H. Like, it's there, it's with Dondozo usually, and it tries to create awkward situations in endgames like Choice Scarfs and Focus Ashes and things like that, where Dondozo's already powered through the rest of the team. At the point they decouple and Dondozo goes back to its trainer. A Draco Meteor, a Muddy Water, something like that, will be able to knock out the last Pokemon after your opponent's team has been softened up, and That's certainly still true here. But I didn't think people would go for it. And so I thought this was early enough. Tatsugiri is a B pick, so Dondozo is a second A pick, and Tatsugiri is my B pick. So I've already spent a big chunk of my budget at this point in the draft. But I'm really happy that I've got this combination because it forces people to respect Dondozo Tatsugiri as a combination. And I don't have to bring it. They just have to respect it. But also, I get all three forms of Tatsugiri. So the curly, stretchy, and droopy, which are, if I get the order right here, attack, speed, and defense boosting, but whatever order, I've got them all. So I get the option as to what stats I boost. So Dondozo gets body press, so I can utilize that with defense boosting. I've got speed boosting if I need to outpace a particularly fast team or something that relies on tailwind, or I've got the attack boosting if I just want to power through and do consistent damage, and any of those will be fine. But I think the most important thing about Tatsugiri that I was really happy with as well is that it doesn't actually have to use Commander. Storm Drain is a really, really good ability. And right at the start of Regulation Set H, I was like, I think Tatsugiri might actually be good on its own. I was never successful at proving that hypothesis, but I think it's a really nice Pokemon. It's got good special attack, it's got decent enough speed, and with a Choice Scarf, you can definitely outspeed a lot of different Pokemon. Certainly most of the Pokemon in the format quite easily. But also, I've got this ability to decouple Dondozo and Tatsugiri. So if my opponent has lots of water-type moves, I can play Storm Drain and just completely nullify all of that while protecting Pokemon like Blood Moon Ursaluna. But also, I can utilize that on my own. So I can play Surf on Dondozo and power up Tatsugiri. Maybe even in Trick Room, and just play this sort of Surf Spam archetype. So I think it has a lot of useful synergy with what I'm doing already. And having a Dragon type in Reg H is pretty nice as well. It's a good type to load up on because there's very few fairies in the format, and that will be a little bit of a theme as we go through the rest of the draft. But I was so happy because now I get to. And this is the other thing about Dondozo Tatsugiri, is that when you look at the entire format, there's lots of different answers. But when you look at a team of 12 Pokemon, you can see what the answers are. You know what Pokemon have Haze. You know what Pokemon have Clear Smog. You know what Pokemon have Unaware, maybe. You know the ones that have Ghost Curse. You know the ones that are Intimidating, Will-O-Wisping, so on and so forth. You have precise information about how they beat Dondozo, and where combos can be quite telegraphed, the amount of range in the way that you can build a Dondozo, physical, special, offensive, defensive, boosting, non-boosting, coupled or decoupled, I think is a really nice thing. So I'm so happy that I got it, and I think it works really well with the Sinistcha as well, because like I say, I can use Dondozo in Trick Room, I can use Tatsugiri in Trick Room if I want, I can use it. I can have Sinistcha supporting it. Storm Drain and Ursaluna is great. So I'm really, really happy at this point. And then we go to the next Pokemon in draft. And this is the S pick. So before I get into Grimmsnarl, I want to really talk about what that means. So Dondozo and Grimmsnarl both fall into my budget picks, or the picks that I have to pay for, as opposed to the slots that are open. And I spent a long time. I was quite fortunate actually, while people were taking a while to decide on what they wanted and the draft to come back to me, I was desperately deciding whether or not I could take an S pick as one of my budget options or not. when I saw that Grimsnarl was available, and having an A pick already coming from my budget means that picking an S tier gives me 20 of whatever currency we're using for this. I'm going to say pounds because I'm based in the UK. Left to pick 2 Pokemon out of my budget, and that means that those 2 Pokemon have to be E picks, and so I have to pick now 3 E tier Pokemon to round out my team alongside another B, 2 C's, and a D pick, which makes my draft somewhat top heavy, but also it puts a lot of pressure on trying to get an E pick E picks fairly quickly, because the difference between a good and a bad S pick is like there's not a lot in it. They're all good Pokemon, whereas a good and bad E pick, you've got Pokemon like, I don't know, Budgew. I don't know if it's even in there. I can't remember, but like that's the first Pokemon that's really bad, as opposed to some of the Pokemon that I've got in E-picks, like Kosta or various other things, like fully evolved Pokemon that just aren't that good but are actually Pokemon as opposed to not. So I decided in the end that I really did want Grimmsnarl, and that's for 2 reasons. The first is that it does the obvious stuff in Reg H. Prankster, screens, parting shot. It's got a really big move pool of moves that it can abuse with Prankster. Fake tears, so on and so forth. There's so many moves. I think like I'd be here for quite a while if I went through all of the different things I was thinking for Grimmsnarl. So do have a look up all of its supportive move pool, but it's like it's got a real ability to play quite a specific set that I can hone to an opponent's team, and it's going to be very, very splashable. Doesn't matter what Pokemon I draft, there's going to be something that Grimmsnarl can do to support it. But not just that, it's got a really high attack stat, and so you can play Focus Sash variants that are really fast and offensive. You can with say Pickpocket, you go down to a Sash and steal an item. It's a pretty fun idea. You can play Frisk as well, and given that this is a closed team sheet tournament, if I was playing, say, an Assault Vest set, because it's got loads of good physical offensive coverage, and it can be one of my primary attackers, no questions asked. Frisk is so powerful in draft because it gives my opponent the knowledge that I'm not playing Prankster, which will tell them maybe a bit about what my Grimmsnarl is potentially doing. But more important than that, I get to know 2 items, which gives me much more information overall. They only know that I'm not necessarily running Prankster moves, or as I only know that I'm not running Prankster. They don't know that I'm not running support moves. They can probably guess that I may be running it more offensively, but I get to see what 2 items my opponents are picking, and that's a really big deal to start making a game plan in the early days. Now, I'm probably going to use Prankster most of the time. It's really good, and it's really good for a reason. But I was really, really happy to pick this up, and that it was still available. I think it's one of the most flexible Pokemon in draft, and its typing is great. Dark Fairy, again, I was saying like earlier, there's not many good Fairy types, so having a good Fairy type coverage, I think, is pretty important as well. And like random coverage moves, like I'm probably going to use Power Whip one of the weeks. I'll let you guess which week that's going to be. But yeah, it's got a lot going for it. So this locked in 2 of my budget picks pretty early, and now I wanted to start going to the free picks again and rounding out my draft. So I wanted something fast. This is something that I really noticed. Like, I've got this slow mode, and Dondozo Tatsugiri can be a little bit of a fast mode, but I wanted to pick up something that was just that little bit faster than everything else, or most Pokemon in the format. And the Pokemon I chose was Cinderace. And I think, like, if you go back to Sword and Shield era, this was such a powerful Pokemon. Libero changing types. I don't know if it had a nerf or not, or if that's how it always worked. I think it did. It's only the first time a Pokemon uses a move that it changes its type, but that's really powerful because you can get really strong damage calculations from using Libero. And that combination of fast offense and speed is something that I was really missing. I was missing a fire type as well. And Cinderace gets a lot of different coverage options. There's some fun things as well. Court change, its signature move. Moving, like entry hazards and things like that. I think there was one player that... In fact, we've had Glimora and Glimmet taken by 2 players in the draft. So if I set up Toxic Spikes, I can put it back onto my opponent's side, and try and take advantage of that. Things like little silly little things like that. It can use coaching as well. It's a fast coaching user. So I think it was a really important move to be able to have, because I can set up really fast, or use a really fast Pokemon to set up my other Pokemon to get some win conditions. A lot of good options. And I guess, like, if I'm playing Focus Sash, I might also play Blaze. Just if I feel like I want to rely on Pyro Ball. Not sure. Maybe a little bit of an own goal coming there. I don't know. We'll see how that shakes out. And so to round that out, I wanted to then bring in a Pokemon that works with three potential physical attackers in Dondozo, Grimmsnarl, Cinderace, and bring in Braviary as my Tailwind setter of choice. Now, the big thing that Braviary gets to its benefit is Defiant. And in a format with quite a few different Intimidators across the different ranges, I think having Defiant is really, really nice. More than that, though, I think it's to do with the various forms of speed control that are available. Stuff like Icy Wind that you can punish, or someone using, I don't know, Fake Tears, or any other, or Passing Shot. Passing Shot's a really good example of this. That actually procs Defiant twice, so you get 4 boosts to your attack after a Parting Shot. And its stat distribution is really, really good. It's not the fastest Tailwind out there, but it's one of the bulkier ones. 175-75 is really, really strong. And 123 base attack is going to hit things really hard. And so it's not just a Tailwind setter for me. It's also one of the more important coverage types. Having just a flying coverage in general, really important. And it's got various other bits of coverage as well, but the ability to play really nice and bulky and consistent. It's like, yeah, okay, I could Tailwind, or I could just trade damage positively against you and put restrictions on how you can speed control against me. So I think, like, I was really happy to get Braviary. It's one of the main Tailwinders that were left. I think it works well with my team. And like with most of my Pokemon, they're all fairly middle of the road, with the exception of Ursaluna and Dondozo, in terms of their speed. And they can play in Trick Room, but they can also play in Tailwind. So having that option in my draft was something that I was really, really looking for. And there's a few fun other things that I'm sure I'll be able to figure out with Braviary as well. Nice fighting coverage as well. That's another really, really big deal if you want to go away from the same type of attack bonus moves. And so we move on to the point where I actually got sniped. Now, yeah, it was about sniped. I wanted Orthworm roughly at this point in the draft. But Evan managed to snag that just on its way to me. And so I had to pivot a little bit. I had to decide on something else that I was going to bring. And I wasn't quite sure what it is. I spoke to a friend, Jamie Keane, and we were going through some of the things that were left, and he made a really good point that the E tier picks are going to start at this point in the draft. They're going to start getting taken quite quickly, and it's like, well, if I want any of the good ones, I better start picking my E picks fairly quickly. And this Greedent was something that really stood out, mostly for the insane bulk, but also the ability cheat pouch. And if you give it, say, like a citrus berry, it'll have the citrus berry, recover 25% of its health, and then recover another portion of its HP with cheat pouch. And so, given this Pokemon also has Belly Drum that it has access to, you can just quite simply Belly Drum and go back to full. And this was the big thing that rounded out the offensive nature of my trick room sweepers, so to speak, because it's so bulky with a good terror. Depending on what my opponent's playing, whatever week, I can get into trick room, get a belly drum up, and start attacking. And it's one of those Pokemon where I think this is really important in draft where you have less resources, is that belly drum says, I don't care what your training is or what type you are. I'm going to go to 6+ and really attack you hard. And I'm sure there's some other fun things that I'll figure out with Greedent, but like it kind of rounded out a different option to Ursaluna if there was a lot of offensive pressure, like offensive water pressure, for example, that I could take a little bit of advantage of. And it's one of the slowest Pokemon out there, base 20 speed. I'm almost certainly going to be using this exclusively in the Trick Room environment. But I think like that trade-off is worth it to have one of the slowest Pokemon out there. Speed time with Torkoal. And Torkoal usually doesn't have competition at the low end. And so having something that can really challenge right down at the floor, I think was really important. So rounding out some more stuff, but actually I wanted to get some more bits in the middle, some more different tools. And given that I've got like a couple of fighting weak Pokemon, I've got a kind of a mix of types, but some overlapping types. I wanted to get some new types going. I've got, at this point, 3 part normal types or normal types. I've got like a couple of water types. And I wanted to expand out into different bits of coverage and also some other ideas. So I've only got 1 fake outer at the moment, and I wanted a second one because I think Grimmsnarler's using fake out. It's good. It can catch your opponent off guard, but also you have to give up a move to get fake out in, and like that's not always possible if you want to be really creative with your Grimmsnarler. It's only got 4 moves. So I wanted a Pokemon that doesn't mind using fake out, but also gives me a little bit more coverage options. And like Terra Grass is a problem if I haven't got Braviary or Cinderace in the team in any given week. So having a poison type is really good. It's a fighting resist. It gives me fighting stab, or fighting same type attack bonus. And dry skin as well. I think that's really, really big because the dry skin means that it's immune, but not only that, it heals from getting hit by water type moves. And that's so important in a composition where I've got, and I've talked about it before, you've got that surf ability with Dondozo and the Storm Drain on Tatsugiri. So I've got this like actually very real surf spam composition where I can say bulk up with the Toxicroak and heal myself up, or even just go Assault Vest, make it really, really difficult to knock out. But also give me that fake out pressure, give me that good coverage option. So I thought Toxicroak was one of those like really good all-round Pokemon that I could take advantage of, and kind of slotted into some of the ideas that I had left for the team. And then we move on to our E tier pick. So this is the second E tier. Toxicroak was a D tier. So I got Cinderace is my B pick. Bravier is my C pick. I think that's right. Toxicroak was definitely my D pick. And then I picked Flapple as an E pick. And Flapple, I think, is one of the better E Pokemon, or E tier Pokemon that's out there. We're loading up on dragons. We've got another grass type. But it's also I think with Terra that's okay. You can load up on a couple of different types and certainly like pick the right one for the team, given you only take 6 Pokemon each time. Now the standard for Flapple is using Hustle and sacrificing accuracy for the ability to hit really, really hard like a truck. And Gravapple, its signature move, it's a bit unfortunate because I don't have Gravity on any Pokemon on my team, so I can't take advantage of Gravity to increase the accuracy of... That's not a thing. Is that a thing? Yes, it is a thing. Yeah, Gravity to increase accuracy, and then Hustle to hit hard, and then Gravapple hits like double hard. I don't have that capability on the team, and like all of the Gravity Pokemon that are good have kind of gone at this point. But I was looking at it as a way to boost. It's got access to Dragon Dance, which I'm really, really liking to see, but also Ripen is something that I want to experiment with quite a lot, because not only does it double the effectiveness of berries, but it also works on berries that get flung in the direction of Sinistcha. Flapple. And that's really important because I have access to Fling on my Cinderace. So I can fling a stat boosting berry onto this Flapple and get a 2+ boost. I can Dragon Dance, I can have a Citrus Berry on it. I can then it also gets access to Recycle, so I can reuse those berries over and over again. And Gravapple's one of those moves that even if it's not great the first time you use it, by the 4th or 5th time you use it, it's probably going to be pretty good because of its defense dropping characteristic. And so it's got pretty good stats across the board. It can boost up. It's got some fun synergies, and yeah, I can Choice Scarf it. It gets access to Sucker Punch as well, and like other priority moves. And I think like on average, again, because there's not too many fairy types out there, having that dragon typing is really, really nice as part of the synergy package alongside the rest of the team. So Flapple joining things along. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is my second C pick. This is my second C pick, and I went for Cyclizar. Now, this may not be immediate, or maybe immediately obvious to you. This could be, you could see it straight away. The thing that I really love about Cyclizar as a pick is Shed-Tail with Regenerator. So I mentioned earlier that I was trying to pick up Orthworm, and that didn't happen. And so I had my eye on other Pokemon with Shed-Tail. There was Sceptile and there was Orthworm. Orthworm went. Sceptile would have been fine, but I've already got 2 Grass-type Pokemon at this point. And Cyclizar is another Dragon normal type, so I'm really loading up on those types. But it's so fast. And the combination of its speed and ability to get Shed-Tail up means that I can leverage that on... The obvious one is Dondozo. I can like, if I have Cyclizar, Grimmsnarl, Dondozo, Tatsugiri and my team of 4 for any given game, I can Parting Shot, Shed-Tail into Dondozo, Tatsugiri and combine with a Mega Substitute on the Dondozo and then just get to smashing things. So there's a lot of power there, but anything that can boost up is a worthy Pokemon to receive a Shed-Tail substitute, but also any Pokemon that's a bit fast and frail. So like if I get a Cinderace and Shed-Tail into that, it means that the Cinderace can also be carrying a focus sash, and it gets maybe 3 or 4 attacks rather than 2 attacks. And I can really take advantage of the defensive synergy on my team. But what's really fun is the fact that it gets Regenerator. So I go down to 50% health, Regenerator up, which means I can Shed Tail 3 times without an item in a game if I get the opportunity. Now, I probably won't, but it'd be really funny if I did. And I think it's a really good Pokemon just for everything else on the team. But if it's not doing that, it's also got access to Breaking Swipe. So I haven't got Intimidate on this team. So a fast Breaking Swipe is really, really strong. And a fast Knockoff as well, which is both information, but also quite good coverage. So I think it's a really underrated pick. And I waited until quite late to pick it up to make sure I could get some E-tiers that were worth picking up. Before I picked the Cyclozaur. So I didn't really think that anybody was going to also pick that as well. And then the final pick, this is my final E-pick, is the Charger Bug. And anyone from the Go community will know how good Charger Bug is in the competitive Go scene. But I thought that Battery was something that was quite interesting. I haven't got any other Pokemon that are not fully evolved. And so I've not got any competition for the Eviolite, and it's a really bulky Pokemon overall with the Eviolite added on. It's got access to Sticky Web and String Shot for really good speed control, and even just like Electro Web as well as a little bit of speed control too. Volt Switch for repositioning, and I think it's probably going to tip the scales over the edge for my special attackers. Like Cyclozaur can run Draco Meteor. You can run it next to Tatsugiri. You can run it next to Sinistcha. You can run it next to Blood Moon. And Battery's doing some pretty good work there. So I think it's pretty underrated. And I think Bug and Electric as typings are going to be quite difficult for many opponents to be able to try and knock out. So I think it's a nice defensive backbone. It gives me some really good support to allow my other Pokemon to shine. And it's not a terrible E-pick. So I think overall I was really happy to round out my team with this. It gives me a lot of different options as well. So this is all of my Pokemon. I'm really excited to get into this, and I've got to stop recording because I've just overlapped with the time that I said I was going to play my match this week with Marcus. So without further ado, that is my draft analysis, and look forward to seeing you after the week 1 match.